Jesus, keep me near the cross. There a precious fountain, free to all, a healing stream flows from Calvary's mountain.
Most of you know Reverend Bill Curtin, but for those of you who don't, let me just share a little bit about this legendary preacher and pastor. Bill Curtin is a retired Methodist minister with more than 40 years of experience in church and community-based organizational development. He is a founder of the Interfaith Alliance of Colorado and Denver Urban Ministries, which is now part of the St. Francis Center. He is also a founder and current board member of the Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center, which is a nonprofit that facilitates the development of cooperative enterprises in low-income and working-class communities. If you haven't figured it out already, Reverend Bill Curtin is an activist. He works and is committed to change and transformation in our worlds. He has a Master of Theology from the Perkins School of Theology. He has served faith communities in Highlands, Park Hill, Evergreen, Inglewood, and most importantly to us, Cameron. He is a former pastor of the Cameron United Methodist Church in South Denver, us. And he served Cameron for 16 years, and the list of legacies that he and Dr. Bonnie Bender brought to Cameron is endless. It is infinite. And it is my pleasure to stand on the shoulders of Reverend Bill Curtin. And I present to you, after hearing the reading of the ancient wisdom, you will hear the wisdom of our former pastor. Welcome, Reverend Bill Curtin. Thank you for saying yes.
Our ancient wisdom comes to us this morning from Psalm 84. How lovely is your dwelling place, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, yes, faints, for the courts of the Lord. My heart and flesh sing for joy to the living God. Even the sparrow finds a home and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young at your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Blessed are those who dwell in your house, ever singing your praise.
Thank you, Pastor Jackson, for providing me with the opportunity to share my thoughts on the journey of the soul. I'm very honored to be a part of a congregation that has such a powerful and soulful pastor. So thank you for this opportunity. Now, the reading from the Psalms provides a way of understanding the soul. My soul longs, yes, faints for the courts of the Lord. Longing and imagination constitute the activities of the soul. The soul longs for the transcendent, as in the courts of the Lord, a place where even the sparrow finds a home. The soul loves the body. When Mary Strezick prays, help us to breathe in your presence, she is engaging in the soul's activity of longing and imagining. The stories of Holy Week are usually called the Passion narrative. The Latin word for passion means suffering. When visiting a Catholic church, I take time to reflect on the stations of the cross that are usually displayed in Catholic sanctuaries, and these are otherwise known as the Way of Sorrows. The images that depict the tragic events of Jesus's final days also represent the journey of our own souls. We all travel on the way of sorrows. The recent events in Boulder and Atlanta confront us with the fact that we are all walking in the valley of the shadow of death. The Passion narrative begins on Palm Sunday with Jesus entering Jerusalem and being greeted by the crowds as if he were a king. Now, in case you didn't know this, Jesus was not a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy from Texas riding in on a white horse or even in a black limo. He was a brown-skinned, homeless, Middle Eastern Jew riding on an ass. He described himself as being despised and rejected, a person of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And yet he bore the aura of nobility. As he passed by, the untouchables in the crowd saw themselves in a new light. They probably stood a little taller, with heads higher. Perhaps they imagined themselves to be like him, of royal blood. In contrast, the Twitter critters in the crowd were appalled that this nothing burger was getting so much attention. The scene was a poke in the eye of the would-be emperors, who could not imagine anyone voting for persons other than themselves. For them, the picture being played out on the streets of Jerusalem must have been like that of the crowds that accompanied Martin Luther King on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, or the Women's March, or the Black Lives March on Washington. This is a scam, fake news, a fraud. Crucify the vision, lynch the visionary, bury the transcendent in a tomb. In the Stations of the Cross images, Jesus is arrested, put on trial, and sentenced to the death. According to the story, right before Jesus' arrest, he responded by saying, "My soul is sorrowful unto death. My soul is sorrowful unto death." During my time as Cameron's pastor, one of the congregants was an attorney and general counsel for a multinational insurance company. I'm going to call him Robert, even though that's not his real name, even though he is now deceased. Robert had an international reputation in the insurance industry that included members of the United States Congress, but he had paid a high price for his success. Now entering retirement or nearing retirement, he was beaten up, burned out, depressed. He told me that he had lost his soul. He spoke of the change that had taken place in the insurance business. These enterprises were created as bear one another's burdens organizations, as in mutual insurance. When I pay my insurance premium, I am sharing the burden of potential disasters such as an auto accident or an illness. I'm sharing the burden with others and them with me, even though mostly all of them are strangers. However, according to Robert, the primary goal now is no longer service, but profit, shareholder dividends, and bloated salaries. The transcendent vision of bearing and sharing had been abandoned in favor of grabbing and grasping. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, in his book Morality, wrote, "In a world where the market rules, and the operation is driven by greed. People come to believe that their worth is measured by what they earn or can afford, and not by qualities of character like honesty, integrity, and service to others. Politics itself, because it can assume no shared morality among its citizens, ceases to be about vision, aspiration, and the common good, and becomes instead transactional, managerial, a kind of consumer product. All that matters is money. Now, the Capitol building in Washington is a visual representation of America's transcendent vision. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, promote the common defense, provide the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution. This transcendent vision, although certainly unrealized, represents the longing of our collective soul. On January 6th, the vision was crucified. The images from the mob scene that stick in my mind are three. The first being that of people climbing the walls of the building, like a plague of crawling, blood-sucking insects. The second is the invasion of the Capitol by the would-be body snatchers, led by a giant Twitter bug. The third is of the man grasping Speaker Pelosi's lectern, itself a symbol of the democratic process. The grasper reminded me of the demon-like Gollum grabbing the ring of power in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. But the Golems are not limited to January 6th. The mass killings in Boulder and Atlanta remind us that we all have a target on our backs. We are the targets of scammers and grabbers that want to suck the life out of our bank accounts and our bodies. Even our bodily organs can be bought and sold. Rather than human beings, we're commodities. Regarding targets, some time ago I heard Nathan Adams, the minister at Park Hill Methodist Church, speak about his experience as a Black man. Nathan is a runner. He stated that every time he goes out of his home or the church office to run, he has a target on his back. Our souls are sorrowful, even unto death. Soon after my arrival at Cameron, a longtime member came up to me and said, "I would rather this church die than change." That's what he said. I would rather this church die than change. Was he speaking for himself or for the congregation? I was not sure. This good and decent man had served this church for decades. He had made a modest living to support his family. His was not an easy existence. Perhaps he was tired and maybe sad. Maybe he had had enough of life. Maybe, I wondered, he and the congregation suffered from a failure of imagination. Sometimes our passion for living dissipates, and we just want to spend our time in a comfortable tomb, equipped with a lazy boy chair, a TV, a do not disturb sign posted on the door, and a drink in our hand. In the age of Trump, insurrections, racial bigotry, COVID, home confinement, 24-hour bad news, family tragedies, All of this can add up to soul fatigue. Human existence is an exhausting catch-22. We are caught between the potentially debilitating threat of death and a longing to be fully alive. And that enigma, like mosquitoes, can suck the blood from our souls. In the year 2000, Pope John Paul II urged Catholics to add a 15th image to the 14 stations of the cross, the resurrection. Now, I don't know why it took so long for them to figure this out, but anyway, he did. Perhaps he was inspired by the Sistine Chapel and the art of Michelangelo. The chapel is a visual image of the resurrection. Upon entering the chapel, my eyes were lifted up and I experienced a beauty and a power beyond comprehension. It was a moment of transcendence. For a few moments, while standing in that sacred place, I was raised from the dead. Perhaps our Sistine Chapel is Cameron Church. When one enters the sanctuary from the back, one's eyes are drawn upward to the stained glass portrayal of the Good Samaritan. The image is an expression of the soul's longing. Like the Samaritan and the one he retrieved from the ditch, we long for a place and a people where even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where even the despised and rejected parts of ourselves are welcome. The dome is an architectural representation of our longing for connection to the resurrecting power of the divine presence. Maya Angelou's poem provides a vivid portrayal of the soul's longing. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Leaving behind the nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. On January 20th, the resurrection of the American soul was made visible in the form of a woman dressed in a dazzling yellow array, like the rising of the sun after a dark night. When Amanda Gorman walked to the podium, I was astonished. Where did she come from? Her hair resembled a crown, a symbol of divine majesty. I tried to listen to her poem, but I was distracted by her radiant presence. In that moment and on that occasion, she embodied America's transcendent vision. Imagining transcendence, however, is not like getting high on marijuana. The experience comes with real world demands. Even though Nathan Adams has a target on his back, he runs. Not only has Maya Angelou been beaten down, she rises. And Pastor Jackson preaches her sermons from the depth of her soul. Amanda Gorman made demands. She said, we will rise. We will rebuild. The new dawn blooms as we free it. If only we're brave enough to see it. if only we're brave enough to be it. We are all Amanda Gorman now. We are all Amanda Gorman now. How is it with your soul? How is it with the soul of Cameron Church? I think it's time for the benediction. I would like to, as the benediction, to invite us to participate in the activities of the soul by remembering Mary Strezick's prayers. Help us to feel your presence. Help us to breathe in your presence. And may our souls be renewed. Amen.
Someday we'll roll away the stone we have carried for so long. All our burdens will be gone, and I can't wait. We will find our way to an understanding of all views. No prayer